Summers here. We're going to unwrap a good friend of mine. I've known more than 30 years, Mike O'Malley. Anthony Ramos. Mr. Al Roker is with us. Gabriel Iglesias. Alex Brightman. Jessica Nabongo. Leah Delaria. Nikki Boyer. Jay Kernis. Guy Fieri. Dr. Lisa Williams is with me. Tell me this story, because this story changed your life.
Totally changed my life.
Welcome back to DBL. You all know our next guest. He's been here so many times that he's basically family at this point. He is, whether he likes it or not. He made a career out of throwing that infamous green slime on Double Dare and talking about Tootsie Rolls on Unwrapped. Now he's adding podcast host to the resume. We're so happy to have him back. Please welcome Marc Summers.
Yeah. How are you?
Hey, Marc. Happy to see you.
So first of all, good to see you as well, Erica. I have to say something because we all are family. Tori was talking earlier about how she's addicted to the phone. If that was true, I called her over 8 weeks ago. She has not returned my phone call, so she's not that addicted.
Tori,
right?
I'm terrified.
You know why?
I'm terrified.
You never called him back?
I got in trouble with my boss over this. I haven't spoken to Marc about this. I'm just so humiliated. How do you call Marc Summers?
That's
on the other end.
Well, Marc Summers last night.
You did?
Yes.
You called Marc Summers?
Speaking of that, Al has a new comedy special coming out that he just recorded in Chicago that will be readily available. He's a very smart and astute man on the panel, but he's one of the top comics in the country, so you should beware of that coming up. Right?
Yeah.
Hello.
Thank you, Marc. Well, we got a lot to discuss about what we were talking about last night, because I think we're going to make the same announcement for you in about a year. But I'm just putting that in the universe, sir.
Sorry, I keep coughing.
I just love this back and forth promotion. Let's get to you, Marc, okay? Because now everybody's hyped. You've been a guest on hundreds of podcasts. What made you want to be a host?
Well, as far as, I've been hosting television shows, believe it or not, for almost 40 years. And during COVID, I was on a bazillion podcasts, and I realized that most of these folks weren't very good. Just because you have a microphone in front of your face, unless you do the homework and find out a purpose for these people to be on your show, and I just stopped doing them. And I kept getting approached by people to do this, and I kept saying no, but this great company, Believe Limited, decided I was their guy, and they kind of talked me into it, and I'm glad they did. Our mission is finding out how people overcome obstacles. If you go to a Broadway show or see a movie or a TV show and you say the person on that stage is so lucky, but what you don't realize is all the angst and the problems they had to overcome to get where they are, and that's what we're talking about.
Let's be honest, your overcoming obstacles is a huge theme on your podcast for me as well. I'm already nervous. Stop, Jeff. You've interviewed some huge names. What have you found that separates people, Marc, who live crazy successful lives and who fight that fear from just average ones?
They're willing to take a chance and put their lives and their careers on the line. Most people retreat and go, I'm going home and I'll go in the insurance business and I'll not fulfill these dreams.
Right.
But I was talking to Al Roker, and Al Roker got asked to do a Broadway show, a show that I had auditioned for, Waitress, which they turned me down. They said I was too young to play Old Joe, the owner. But he went to take voice lessons, and he nailed it. I went to see him on Broadway. He was amazing, but never had the desire, but put himself on the line. And the same thing, Anthony Ramos, who's a gentleman who I met when I was doing summer stock 10 years ago, and he wanted to be a professional baseball player, decided to stick his toe in the water on theater. And there was something magical at age 17 that we saw him do on stage. And then the next thing you know, he's in Hamilton and now starring in just about every movie. Transformers is coming out. He's doing that. So I applaud these people.
Wow.
Yeah, Marc, and I'll tell you, I really connect with you because I almost didn't get DBL because they said I trended too young. But the hair and makeup staff make me look 45.
Ridiculous.
Whatever. But let's get serious for a second, because you're talking about people taking risks, but you're taking a risk because people know you and they know your humor from Double Dare and shows like Unwrapped, and that's lighthearted. But this podcast digs deep. Like that, you're taking a risk there and people seeing another side of you. What gives you the confidence to ask these hard questions, man?
Well, at 71 and a half, I have nothing to lose, and I figured I'd go for it. About 100 years ago, I was doing a talk show that your exec producer, Bert Brow, helped me get a guest, Jerry Lewis, who I was obsessed with. And when we had Jerry on the show, I went deep on him and said, why didn't you win an Oscar? How come you've never, gotten an Academy Award? And Jerry looked at me and said, I've never done anything that warranted getting an Academy Award. And I also talked to him about other people, Jim Carrey in particular, basically stealing his act and the fact that they were asking other people who did Jerry Lewis impressions to do movies, but not him. And I thought he was going to walk out, but he answered the question. And I think unless you're willing to, put these people on the spot and get the truth, there's no point in listening, because, I always get asked about the Burt Reynolds story on The Tonight Show. I'm so tired of telling that story. I've told it for 30 years. There's no point in telling it anymore. There's more information that you might be able to dig out of me other than that.
I think the podcast is perfect for you, Mark. I mean, it makes sense. You've talked openly about your OCD. There's a rhythm to podcasting. Like there's so much that you're like a very inquisitive person. This makes total sense to me.
I'm glad you think that way. I'm having a ball. We have Gabe Iglesias, Fluffy the comedian, coming on. We learned a lot of interesting stuff about. Next week, Mike O'Malley is on, and I've known him for 30 years, and I think he's the most successful person to ever come out of Nickelodeon. He stars in movies, he writes television shows, he's done it all. But when you get the behind-the-scenes story of what makes these people tick, I think that's blown me away is there's something like 850,000 podcasts. After week 1, we were number 77. So people are interested in what we're doing, apparently, and we're going to keep it going.
Yeah, but Mark, it's because you let people in on you, too. Like Mark Maron called you the most interesting man in the world, and I think people will know why if you tune in to Unwrapped. Because
call him back.
Or call,
I'm already
I'm
devastated.
Mark, we miss you. We love you. Congratulations. DBL Nation, don't miss an episode of Marc Summers Unwraps. Listen wherever you get your podcasts. You can also watch full interviews on Marc Summers Unwraps YouTube. We'll be right back.
Thanks,
we'll get rid of Tori for the next interview, Mark.
Thanks, Tori, call me back.
I was intimidated. I'm sorry, I will.